Welcome to the Late Game Podcast, a podcast about all things board gaming, from rolling dice to painting minis and everything in between. I'm your host Tyler, and with me is Russ.
How are you?
And Kenneth.
Hello.
So, by the time that we end up releasing this episode, we will have attended TIMCon, some of us, and that's coming up this weekend. Do you guys have any advice for me going in, being that this is my first endeavor into gaming cons?
I haven't been to this one, so I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I'm really excited for it, as you are, but I don't know if it's going to be. I think it's going to be more like SaltCon, where there'll be some vendors, but I expect it to be more about just playing games, which is, for me, those are my favorite kind of board game conventions.
Yeah, that's the most enticing thing about a board game con. For me,
Having that dedicated 2 full days to
hell
play everything that you possibly can.
Yeah.
The biggest advice that I would give you, and that I would give anyone going to any kind of convention at all, is vitamin C and hand sanitizer.
Yeah. So we'll be playing games. Don't touch your eyes.
Yeah,
and nose.
Especially with a board game thing where it's such a tactile thing.
Yeah.
You're going to be touching other people's games, and other people are going to be touching your games, and be mindful of that. And I mean, also kind of read the room, if you've got a couple of guys that it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
The 3 of us are constantly touching each other's stuff, and it's fine. That look on Russ's face. What was that?
Nothing. It didn't sound awkward at all.
I didn't say we're touching each other's areas.
No, but if it's an area control game, we might be.
We might be, yeah. But I mean, all the pieces in the game, everyone ends up touching everything, and depending on the game, sometimes there's a lot of pieces changing hands. So
right.
if it's a couple of guys that they have good hygiene and stuff like that, you're probably going to be all right. If there's anyone that seems questionable, have your hand sanitizer ready before you go rubbing your eyes or biting your fingernails or anything like that,
It was a first one I went to. It was a little weird to get out of my comfort zone because I'm kind of I don't know. When I first started in the hobby, it took a lot for me to go to game stores and participate in Dice Masters. So that helped break down the barrier a little bit to go to the conventions and then be willing to play games with people. But there were games that I wanted to play that I would just jump in on. Don't be afraid to do that. There's a great way to learn. I think it's good sometimes to change up your play group so you just get a feel for a game in a different way. That was how I played Cthulhu Wars the first time and fell in love with it. So
nice. You
may find something that you really enjoy that you'll want to come back to. And especially in a hobby like this, it's not always the most viable to go spend $100 on a game to see if you like it.
Yeah.
And I feel like conventions are those kind of abilities.
Yeah, it was at SaltCon that I was able to play Dinosaur Island. And I was like, hey, this game's fine, but I don't like the way it looks. But I wanted to play it, but I just couldn't. I could not bring myself to buy it because I didn't like the art design. And then I played it and I was like, hey, that's not bad. I'm still not going to buy it, but if someone else wants to play it, if they've got it, I'd be down to throw down on Dinosaur Island again.
Right. A lot of the conventions will have their hot games where they have it already set up. You can go and learn. I will warn people, and not really warn, but the volunteers are trying to teach a lot of games.
Yeah.
Sometimes they might miss rules. So even if it's a game that you feel like they did a good job of, I don't think it's a bad idea to go back through the rules. Our group played Blood Rage wrong for a year and a half because we learned it at a convention and there were very minor rules missed. Like when I taught you parks, right? If we were at a convention and someone forgot the camera, we may remember that. Or, not know that the last player starts with that.
Right.
Forever, and then you realize it, and it does change. They're minor things, but it does change. So
yeah, and sometimes it can probably change it for the better, I imagine.
Blood Rage is much different than the way we used to play.
Yeah. Also, I would say, uh, definitely like be ready to come out of your shell. Like I have a hard time with that. I am on a good day, I am bashful, and on a bad day, I am severely antisocial. So I like I've only gone to SaltCon once. I keep meaning to go, but I keep having work stuff get in the way. Um, but I've only gone to SaltCon once, and it was fun. But I have a very hard time walking up to someone being like, "Hey, how's it going? I'd love to jump in on your game." Or someone walking by being like, "Hey, you want to jump in on this game?" I'm much more of like, "Hey, I know 6 people here. The 6 of us should play a game, and no one else should. We've got the time. What we have here is the time. For me, it's all about having the time, and I would rather stick with my group." That is not the way to maximize your time at a convention.
Right.
I'm aware of that, and I intend to at least attempt to do better. For me, I think that what I'll have to do is just basically be jacked up on energy drinks the entire time, just to where I'm like hyperactive and I'm just like, I need to do stuff. Hey, who are you? What's you?
Yeah.
And that'll help. Either that or be like half drunk the whole time. But that's not going to help me play any better. So like but I feel like I need some sort of like performance enhancer.
Yeah.
By way of
Some stimulant.
energy drink or a bit of alcohol to get me past my own like mental hangups about
So
stranger
speaking
danger.
of conventions,
For sure.
what's a game convention you guys really want to go to? Like wish list, you could go. Money's an object. You just go.
Essenspiel, it's the biggest one, and no one there is going to speak the same language as me, so they're not going to try to talk to me.
Sounds
No,
kinda cool.
No, honestly, for real though, I'd love to go to Gen Con because that is Essenspiel and Gen Con are the two that have like the biggest release schedule, and there's the most like hype going into and out of them.
Right.
And I mean, Origins is right there. Dice Tower, like any of the big ones have a certain amount of that, but Gen Con is the biggest one in North America, and Essenspiel seems like it's the biggest one probably in the world. Um, I think it would be cool to just be in that environment and see the hype and be like right at the doors when they're about to open the like the vendor hall and try and run in to get that game because you heard that it's the coolest thing around, and you end up leaving the con with Wingspan 2 months before it hits the shelves for anyone else, and then you can tell people about it, and people are going, "Hey man, we need to bust out that game that's coming out," like that whole thing sounds great to me. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
What
me,
about
it'd be BGG Con because it kind of sounds like it's in between the level of hype, but also it has enough interest in like, and not necessarily releases, but they seem to mention that there's a lot of upcoming games. They kind of
Yeah.
release
Like a lot of demos
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that.
new stuff around the corner, which and then it's also one that I've heard that has quite a bit of gaming involved as well. So it seems like it's
Yeah.
even keel.
I mean, if I had the money to, I think I would love to go to Essen at some point. But that, to some extent, that almost feels overwhelming. Like I want to go, but I wouldn't expect the same as I do like going to a SaltCon or a TempCon even. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's the thing is I have a hard time being social, so I would rather
Right.
go to the place where there's the bigger emphasis on the industry side and on the shopping and product side more so than and I've heard that like Origins is kind of like 1 foot firmly planted in both sides. There's a lot of
Right.
gameplay at Origins and there's a lot of vendor stuff at Origins. I've heard that like the Dice Tower conventions are more play oriented. I've heard that BGG Con is more play oriented, and that it sounds great in theory, but I know that would be I would end up leaving that experience feeling like I didn't maximize it as much as I would with a more vendor geared like one geared more towards
Yeah,
vendors and
see,
releases.
the other one that is on my radar two more is Come On Expo. Like I would love to go.
Oh, thanks,
to,
dog. He wants to go too.
Yeah, I'd love to go to Come On Expo. The designers are around. I mean, unless it grows bigger than
You
it has
just
been.
want the swag bag. Don't
Oh,
lie, dude.
I mean,
don't,
I'm not gonna lie. That
don't
swag
even
bag
try.
is pretty amazing.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, they give away some awesome shit in that swag bag
Yeah.
every single year.
and then the store there. I don't know if that's going to change now that they did that Kickstarter time vault or whatever, but they're my favorite publisher and some of my favorite designers, and you get to play games with them at times, and it feels a little bit more low key. So I'd really like to go to that one, and the swag bag is definitely a large plus. And then the other one, I'll throw this in, even though it's not a traditional expo, is I would love to go on the Dice Tower cruise.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
that
say
would be
too.
way fun.
You know, just 7 days of playing games, man, would
Now,
be awesome.
my family not being much into gaming, I think they would probably make an exception.
I've
if we were
tried to talk my wife. We've
going.
talked about going on a cruise again, and she's not down for that one. But she said, "Why don't you and your friends go?" So that's actually a possibility. Hopefully, in the next couple of years for me.
That'd be
Right
awesome.
on. That'd be way fun.
So, as far as Kickstarters go, what have you backed recently? I know you mentioned Ruins of Mars last week, and I mentioned when I got to game night that I actually backed that as well, but I backed out of that one.
Why'd you do that? Because I did.
Yeah, so one reason, yes, because you did, but also so I could get something different.
Yeah.
Something else that caught my eye about that same price range, and that was Sovereign Skies.
Oh, that's on my list of. So I have a new habit now. Is I will like if I can't sleep or something at night, I go through and I just favorite a bunch of them. Kind of that idea of like scan through them once, favorite them, and then I'll do a deeper dive next time, give it some time, and go back. So it's more of a like come back to it and think about it instead of like the quick. I'm gonna go.
I kind of do that too a lot of the time, where I'll favorite something, and then often what happens, because a lot of the time when I'm doing that, it's on Sunday going through the Reddit post, as I've mentioned on the
Yeah.
podcast before. Going through that Reddit post is breaking down all the new stuff and all the ending stuff, and so I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll favorite that. It just launched, and then every so often I'll pull up my Kickstarter app and I'll be like, all right, so what's ending soon? What am I keeping an eye on? And the first like hurdle that a game has to beat a game has to clear that I'm just kind of watching is when I open it up and I go, oh yeah, I wanted to look more into that, or I go, the hell is this? Like, and then I go, apparently it didn't grab me enough to even remember like the I don't know, elevator pitch or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So what caught your eye on Sovereign Skies?
Honestly,
The art is gorgeous.
I'm just throwing back to my experience with Crusaders, and it's a rondel. It's a little bit different, and the amount of the playtime, the suggested playtime, 30 to 45 minutes. That's one thing that if I can get my family to play it, then there's a good chance that I'm going to lean towards purchasing that. So that's one thing that caught my eye. The art looks really cool. It's it's got some cool little spaceship meeple type things, and they're upgrading those as people continue to back that project. And the fact that it was $29.
Yeah, see, that's got 6 days left, so I may end up backing that too.
Don't. I'm just kidding.
Now that you've bagged it, that's definitely I probably don't need it. So
Yeah, probably not.
I need to get better at that. So
And I'm just trying to, with you owning Ruins of Mars, it would be hard for me to want to bring it to game night. And if it's the only
Right.
time that we're going to play it, then what the hell is the point of me owning it?
That's
So
true.
I kind of got Sovereign Skies with that in mind, that, hey,
Yeah.
if I do get it, also, it's going to deliver like 4 or 6 months before the other. So or at least suggested.
I mean, I really do probably look at that more than some. I love if it's not because I back some Command games pretty frequently, and those are like a year and a half or so.
Yeah.
I love when I see, it's like 6 months. All right, I'm gonna.
Right.
That looks a little bit more tempting. So, anything else that you're looking at back on, or?
Not right now. I keep an eye on everything that comes out fairly new, just in case another one of those inexpensive things comes my way. But there's one that looked kind of cool, the Blood of the Northmen or something like that, and it was a Viking themed thing. But I don't know. For the price, I wasn't able to commit to that at the moment.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at a few. The Sumo Gnomes, which is just kind of a weird little use dice to kind of, I don't know, move dice and push them off. More of a novelty, I think. Little pocket-sized game. So another one that I've been looking at is this Hard West.
That one does look pretty cool. I like the terrain pieces that are part of the board, the little saloon and the whole western town that they put together.
I like. It looked really cool. I like Western. I like horror. I've read a couple of like horror stories like in Western and stuff. I love like Red Dead Redemption. I was like, all right, Hard West. We're talking kind of horror, kind of hardcore Western game. And then I looked and I was like, $75 for a box full of standees? Get out of my face! Like, get out of here! I'm no. That's it's way.
It took me a minute to figure out why
for me to be okay with that.
Why the price difference? Because if you look at the way it's listed, like Hard West, Standard Edition, Stretch Goals, next one down, Hard West, Board Game, Standard Edition, Stretch Goals, Social Goals, like all the same. I was like, what is the difference? And then I saw that it was the standee version.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the standee version, and then there's like, different sets of terrain and the miniatures.
I wouldn't have to paint the standee version though.
You wouldn't be able to stand the standee version. We both know that.
That's true.
Yeah, I just like. I feel like there should be a bigger price difference than. I mean, the price difference goes because it's in Canadian, but the estimates for American, it goes from $75 to $113. That doesn't feel like if you're going to make a standee version so that it's cheaper and easier for people to get into. I mean, I would assume that that's the reason that they're doing it.
Yeah.
Not just to like maliciously charge more for plastic. I feel like there should be a bigger drop, like you shouldn't start at your core box without the standees. You're calling that 99 Canadian, which is 75 American, and then you go up to 150 Canadian. You should start at your plastic box.
Right.
That should be your base, and then you should go down from there for the standees. And I think that I don't know, I'd feel more comfortable if the standees were 50, 65.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll pick up a game with standees at the right price. Like I just picked up Walking Dead No Sanctuary standee version because it was $10. And I hear the game is good.
I'm not opposed to standees, like as a general principle or anything like that. The problem that I have with this is, so you've got a version with standees that costs $75, and then you can go all the way up to, like
the deluxe version.
Yeah, 150. There's one that's 150. There's one that's like $200. There's the deluxe version that's $300, and that's where you start getting into like all this terrain and all this other stuff, and like looking at the game, there's an element to like building the board and it being a three-dimensional thing, and it's like, all right, well, why the hell would I want standees, and why would I want to pay like $75 for a version of this with standees that is a very like three-dimensional like tactile game that you have all that terrain and all of that stuff.
Right.
Why would I even bother with the standee version at that high of a price point?
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And then I'm looking at Subterra 2. Subterra is supposed to be a great game. I haven't played it, but I kind of wouldn't mind getting the second one and diving into that world because of everything I hear about it. Cosmic Colonies has my eye. Also looks pretty good. Just a interesting drafting game. And then the Cats of Ulthar.
That one looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
For being a card game, the artwork looks really cool.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan of cats, but it's H.P. Lovecraft, and it just kind of looks interesting.
Yeah.
So.
Right on. Well, what have we been playing lately? What about you,
Oh, I don't
Russ?
know. We made some Frankenstein monsters. That game was sick.
Yeah, Abomination was rad.
Yes. Grateful that Kenneth purchased that thing and
Yeah,
brought
me
it to
too.
game night.
Yeah, I will be purchasing that game.
I-
Plaid Hat Games did a great job on that one.
I
so
feel
shout out
like
to
I
them.
will as well.
Yeah, that one was awesome.
I mean, I need more plays, but right now,
and
if you ask me
and
my
ideally
favorite,
without us screwing up the
yeah,
rules.
but if you ask me my favorite worker placement, I'm saying Abomination right now. The theme, like,
yeah, it is.
I just
dripping with.
man, I
theme.
It
just
was.
loved I felt like I had a purpose of what I was doing.
Yeah,
Right.
And I know that
every little thing.
Yeah, that gets some people
Felt
off with what you're
important.
doing, but I felt like we were in that. It was really cool. And then the story, little bit of story that it provides.
it definitely. I
really
would say is it. It might be the most thematic worker placement that I've ever played. With most of the time, it's like, okay, champions of Midgard, we're Vikings, and I'm going to place this guy here to get wood, and I'm going to place this guy here
Yeah.
to get more Vikings with swords.
And you can
And-
send them
and
off
it
to
feels-
fight monsters,
Yeah,
and that
like,
is
but
kind of
but the
there.
meat of the game feels like there's a disconnect.
Right.
There's something different about harvesting body parts and like the dark art and
But
the gory depictions and
What
stuff.
I
that
loved
just
is
kept
where
me
you
into it.
harvested from
and
impacted how long it would last, right?
Yeah,
so it's
so-
like, oh, I'm going to go to the graveyard.
You
My
get-
body parts are
you get
only going to last around.
some low quality body parts from
Yeah.
the graveyard. But if you go to either the town square after there's an execution, you can get some fresh stuff. Or if you just go to the dark alley and murder someone yourself, you get some really good quality body parts.
And lots of them, yeah.
See, and I know it's fictional, but I love turn of the century history, specifically some of the darker stuff, the books, Jack Ripper, that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
this felt like that. Like, yeah, we're creating monsters, but it felt like, I don't know, kind of like, for lack of a better term, doctors trying to figure out stuff. Right. And
It felt like we played a period piece.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a great game. If you're looking, this is probably going to come up around Halloween or after, huh?
It'll be up before Halloween.
Okay, yeah. If
Right
you're
around
looking,
the time
if
that
you're
this-
looking for a Halloween game, if you can find this one locally, jump up and get it. It's a really good, like, surprisingly atmospheric and thematic worker placement, and definitely a dark
It's dark.
horror type of.
So you
theme.
probably
Yeah.
don't want to play with like your 10, 11-year-old kids.
Yeah, if you've got little kids,
Unless they're
or if
interested in the
people are,
macabre.
yeah, or if you're just kind of off put by like violence, blood, gore, any of that, go ahead and take a Google online, see what you can find as far as imagery or some other reviews before you jump into it. But
Yeah.
if you're down with a dark theme and very like mature and macabre and bordering on like I can see where some where there's like a little bit of controversy and some people are off put by it. I personally love it, and it draws me into the game even more that they went as far as
Yeah.
they did with it.
Yeah.
So if that sort of thing interests you and you're looking for a worker placement or a game to play in the spooky part of the season, the only real drawback that I have, the only like negative thing to say that I have to say about the game is wish it played more than 4,
Right.
because that's a game that like I just liked it so much. I'd like to be able to play with more
Yeah.
people, you
Right.
know, like I'd like to be able to share that experience with more people. But if you've got a gaming group of 4 or less, or
it
you
would
can
need an
break up,
expansion for sure. We'd have to expand into London, maybe add that Jack the
Yeah.
Ripper expansion that we talked about.
the expansion that we talked about.
Yeah.
The one that doesn't exist that
Right.
we hoped for the whole
So-
time.
Yeah, Russ's theory crafting expansions for Plaid Hat games.
So
No.
it was and then the other one, we played a few new ones on Friday, and I actually liked Court of the Dead quite a bit. I will say it was a slog the first round,
Yeah,
but things started to click, and I really enjoyed it. It felt almost worker placement engine builder, card draft. Like it had a lot of it, but it did it well to where it didn't feel
See,
a mess to me.
I ultimately kind of landed at a different part of the spectrum. Like I didn't like hate it or anything, but I found it to be overstuffed longer than it needed to be, and it ended up feeling kind of boring to me. Like it felt like much ado about nothing. It's like, okay, you've got to do, there's what, like 47 phases per turn or something like that. Like
8.
there,
It's pretty.
and each of these phases is like uh a different game mechanic. So you have a drafting phase, you have a worker placement phase, you have a combat like dice rolling phase, and each of those things, like I felt like none of them impacted the game enough, and there was too many of them to make any one of them feel really important. I'm sure that in subsequent plays there could be a strategy where it's like you really focus on something, but for me it was just like, all right, can we get this draft over with? It's not going to really matter. Can we get this worker placement over with? It doesn't really matter, and it takes forever. Can we get this? Like for me, it just felt like everything took too long. It was overstuffed. I'd be down with trying it again because like I didn't
I think
hate it,
I think
but
we
it
could
just
play it
felt
in under
so
2 hours.
boring.
If players knew what was going on, it seems to me like it would. It's really odd how gaming, in my perspective, is evolved to say like a game under 2 hours is pretty light, and it's because it seems like a worker placement, but instead of putting, you don't get the reward when you place it, you get the reward if you have the most guys there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it is a hodgepodge of a lot of mechanics, but I think if everybody knew it, it would be a reasonably quick play.
Yeah, it's one of those games that, I mean, there's different ways to view depth. I mean, people talk about like a Feast for Odin being a very deep worker placement because there's like
Right.
40 whatever. There's just so many different things that you can do, and it's, you know, which one's actually going to be the best, you know, that sort of thing. And then there's the deeper games like Twilight Imperium, where it's just everything is on such a massive scale, but really it's not too deep. This one, it felt like a really tall stack of very shallow implementations of the different mechanics. Like it reads deep, it looks deep, but really it's a bunch of simple things that you do, and for me none of them felt particularly rewarding in their implementation.
Right.
The art design, the component quality, like the theming of it, and the like table presence and all of that, I really enjoyed all of that. I thought it looked great. And you know, I'd be down with playing it again, but I'm not going to go out of my way. And I'm certainly glad that I decided not to back it. But
See, that's one that I'm okay not backing because Kevin has it. That's one I would have been happy if I would have backed, even though I started to realize it would compete with like the Gods of War, which right now, having not played the Gods of War but read the rule book, if you had to tell me which one I was choosing, it would not be Court of the Dead. But so I'm okay not backing it, but I would have been happy if I would have at the same time.
yeah, for me, I think that I'd rather pick any of the individual mechanics and play a game that does any one of them better rather than one that does all 7 of them. Okay, okay to poorly.
Yeah, it kind of felt like one of those games that a quote unquote area control game that Euro
Yeah, that was the
players
other.
might
That was
like.
one of the other many mechanics that like I.
But I felt like
but
Euro, like people that like Euro games may drift toward this one because it's a lot of
But
there's
see-
not a lot of chance in it.
But at the same time, like Jared was loving it, and he hates Euro games, and he's all about the Ameritrash, and he was like, "This game's Ameritrash, and I'm loving it." And it was like, I guess this game is just
Yeah,
it's
but
just
I was telling
boring,
him I
and you're
think
loving
he's
it. I don't know.
I think he's wrong. I mean, you rolled dice
yeah,
if there was
he's
too many
wrong,
guys
but-
in the area. Like it looked like there was a lot of chance in it, but there really wasn't. Like
Yeah.
it looked in theme wise very much Ameritrash, but I could see it when you peel all that away. It was much more. I need to have more presence here, so I get that, and I can engine build to get this, and I pretty much have control over what I want.
Yeah.
which is not a bad thing. But like you said, it's a lot of
We
many
played
things.
what, 2 rounds, and
The first round was
it ended
rough.
just at the basically in the starting bit of the third round. Tyler showed up at about the 67th hour of the first round, right when we were
I
just
think
about getting done.
I think over half of our game was the first round learning it.
Yeah, it was brutal. Like that first round took forever, and it's because, like I said, there's a million different mechanics. Each phase is a different mechanic, and it's like it's just
It's the kind of game
was
that if you
wonky.
can, when you learn it, have someone there that has played it, because it is very easy to grasp onto, because it's, oh, this relates to this game and this is like this game and this, but
yeah.
but reading it and learning it out of the book, as Kevin did, it was kind of hard to put that all
Yeah.
together. So,
But like from a third party perspective, what did you think? Like seeing it on the table and like kind of hearing the chatter around the table. Did anything stand out to you aside from the fact that we said that we're 2.5 hours into our first turn?
It sounded like a bit of a kaleidoscope, like you've described. It sounds like it was almost too busy trying to do too many things. Like they went through BGG and decided, okay, these are the 8 most popular mechanics or, categories of game. And we're going to try to make a game that's just shuffled all these together. And, another thing that stood out to me is knowing a little bit about Sideshow collectibles. These minis were kind of not so collectible.
right, yeah.
And maybe I'm a little bit biased because I work in the industry. But
No, I think you and I share the same, in the sense that I love Peterson games. I love the minis, but those minis compared to other minis don't have the detail. It's a different kind of plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great. I mean, I love them, right? But like the stuff that you cast is much different plastic, more hard lines,
Right.
better detail. It kind of felt like Court of the Dead didn't know which it wanted. It wanted the more
it reminded me
heavier
of like,
plastic with wanting the detail.
it reminded me of like something that you would see from Simon circa like 5
Like
years
Zombicide,
ago.
original Zombicide.
Like original Zombicide,
Yeah.
or like the first like Chaos Ball stuff that came out. Probably around Blood Rage is where they really started hitting their stride. So
Yeah.
and the newer stuff all looks amazing, but you look at some of the older Simon games, and they're the details are a little bit washed out. They were trying to do a little bit more than what they had the technology for. So
Yeah.
the sculpts looked great. So if there's like a higher detailed version of the game out there, maybe I'd like to see those. But the production minis, they were a little bit softened detail wise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then the other game, we got Ethnos to the table finally with you, and I was sad that you didn't enjoy it as much as Ken and I do.
It's not a bad game. I just found
there's a part of me that wonders,
leaving me wanting more. With whatever I was able to do, and the game itself, I just felt like, oh, and it's over. Okay, all right.
Yeah, there's a part of me that wonders if there's a certain amount of what there was. It played 6, and I know it was your first time playing. It might have been Ben's first time playing. The other 4 of us had already played it. We kind of knew what we were doing, and it's, I've definitely found that I don't always enjoy games as much when I'm playing with an experienced group, and not because I need to win or anything, but it's like, it's more of that thing of like, I look at across the table and I go, I don't even know why you did that. Like, what was that choice? Why was how did you do that? Like, what are we doing? Oh, it's on to my turn again, and I'm still trying to figure out what 3 people ago did, the significance of it, the mechanics of it, and I wouldn't be surprised if a slower play, a more contemplative play for your first play would have left you with a better impression of it.
Yeah, I think it could have. And being that
some
far
of the
left
races,
behind after the very first turn, that was, that just, it makes it hard for me to get into if I feel like
Yeah,
I'm
when-
playing
when
not only
Russ-
from behind, but I'm playing like
When Russ decides to just
Yeah.
spike the shit out of the new guy on the very first
Hey, hold on.
round.
I didn't win.
I know, but you made it clear that he wasn't going to in the first round.
But
You
that's-
did that. I hope you're
that's
proud of
not
yourself. You
true.
ruined Death Notes for Tyler.
That's not true. Anyone could have come back and won because I went with one strategy that I knew was going to be a problem round 2 and 3. But I do think that we had some pretty simplistic races, right? We had the dwarves that give you a +1. There wasn't a ton of thought. And that being said, though, it is a very simple game. I think it is a very gateway game, and I've said this before, because really all you do is you draw a card or play cards. So it's much more, it's hand and foot with a map, kind of, right? I'm just coming up with something I'm putting down.
See,
And
to me, it's my favorite Ticket to Ride game.
yeah,
Because to me, it feels, I've only ever played Ticket to Ride once, but it seemed like you were either drawing cards or you were laying down sets to create your routes. And with this, you're laying down sets to have like territory control.
yeah,
And to me, that's my preferred version of Ticket to Ride.
right. The strategy is really on who's going to be the leader of your band and what color are you going to play to put things there. So it's not, there is some deep strategy there, but it's much more of one that you can have a casual conversation around as you draw and you discard and you decide what you want to discard.
yeah.
It's not like Root where it's your turn and you can't even think about anything else other than exactly what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So.
it's definitely something I'd be willing to try again. In, maybe a smaller setting would be helpful, like Kenneth said, but
Yeah, we
this
can pick exactly which races to provide more choices, I think.
right. See, and I assumed that was just everything in the game. I assumed that was just
when you play, you only play with what, half the races that are in the core box, or is it even less than that?
I think it might be less. It's at least half, but it might be less than half.
Yeah, so you play with what, 5?
Yeah.
And there's 10 or 12 different races that each have a different ability.
Yep.
I mean, there can be some really interesting interactions and strategies, and there really wasn't that big of ones in
No, because a lot of ours was like, I think Winged Folk was the biggest one that provided a heavy strategy, and that was decide where to put your token down.
wing folk and to a
Right.
lesser degree merfolk, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So
it wasn't bad though. The artwork didn't suck.
a lot of people really dislike the artwork. I
yeah,
quite enjoy it.
it's not setting the world on fire, but it's good enough. I mean, it's a simple game, and honestly, for the level of complexity and for the game that you get out of it, I would rather the art stay somewhat simple and somewhat basic, so as not to detract
Right.
or give like a false expectation of what the game is. You look at this
Definitely.
amazing art and you're like, all right, now what are we doing with these beautiful cards? I'm gonna draw one and then put some down.
Yep.
Shit, really? Like
That's it.
that's okay.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. What if I just want to look at them for a while? I got to put them down now. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are your favorite things about hosting a game night? For me, it's the guarantee that I'll have people that want to play games coming over actually wanting to play games. Since I don't have very many gamers or any gamers in my household for that matter, my family will play games with me, but it's so few and far between that it happens that I feel like, with me screwing things up early on, thanks pandemic. But no, in all seriousness, I love hosting game nights simply because there's the guarantee that people are coming to play games.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Do you mean hosting it at my house or just in general we're hosting?
just at your house or
So for me, I made a decision like 2 years ago or so, kind of not, I always kind of think of this, but the Field of Dreams where, if you build it, they will come.
yeah,
And I was like, I'm going to get a game table and then I'll get friends over, right? Kind of that, not just games. I need to have, I want to make sure that people come and play games.
Yeah.
And not just the group that we play with, but I have a few other groups that I've started to get to come over. So I went on, got a cheap table, and I've covered it so it has the felt feel to it,
Right.
and the biggest thing I spent money on was the cushion because I got the expensive stuff so it didn't seep in moisture and whatnot.
Right.
So, but for me, it's that idea of having friends over.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not the youngest fella. Right. So I don't go hang out places or those kind of things very often. If it wasn't before this, if it wasn't at a sporting event or something I was coaching, that was it. And my job, I now work at home for the last 5 years or so, so I didn't even have that kind of interaction
Yeah.
at the office or whatnot.
Right.
Which, again, it's nice to be at home when you're working, but you have no kind of social outlet. So I get the table, get the games, and it's very, for me, fulfilling to have people over, have the mini fridge, have drinks when I can keep it stocked, right?
Yeah.
They tend to run dry sometimes. But to have that and just people to come over and play games, for me it's very nice. Whether it's our group or any other group, because it's like, hey, this is kind of my world. When it's like neighbors come over and they're like, I like to play games. Monopoly was a lot of fun. And you're like, oh, no, what about one of these? And they feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's a really good to like, oh, where do you want to start? What do you want? Or when people come over and they're like, I don't know what I want to play. Do you want to play a certain theme? What kind of action? Do you want to roll dice? Do you want to play cards? Do you want to...
Right.
And start from there, so...
To be able to introduce them.
Right.
Cool.
That's what I get out of hosting.
What about you, Kenneth? What do you like about hosting a game night?
Honestly, my favorite thing about hosting, specifically about hosting, is
Cthulhu Wars.
not having to leave.
Oh, yeah.
I like my home. I like being there. I like my dogs and my family. I've created it like my home is my place. That's the place that I would rather be.
For sure.
100% of the time. So for me, the biggest thing is that I can just sort of stay in my comfort zone. And I mean, I'm totally comfortable at either of you guys' house, but that first few times that you go over to someone's house, like and especially like I have a tendency of being really crass and have a potty mouth, and I can also, like I said earlier, I can be kind of bashful and or antisocial. So like, it's important for me, like if I'm gonna focus on a board game, or if I'm gonna focus on like enjoying myself, I need to be able to relax. And the place that I do that the best is at my house, and at that point, it doesn't matter who's over. Hopefully, everyone feels relaxed because I really don't give a shit what goes on. I'm very much the type. It's like, you want to have a beer, have a beer. You want to do whatever. Like be happy, be comfortable. Let's all chill. So my favorite thing about hosting is it being at my house, and I also kind of what Russ said about Cthulhu Wars. I have a handful of really, really big games that it's like I'm not taking them anywhere. Like Cthulhu Wars, there's no version of me bringing that to your house for a Friday night game night, because eventually we'll be at my house anyways, and that's a better place to play it because there's just so much shit.
That makes sense.
Those are probably the biggest things as far as like just attending a game night. Game night is absolutely like the cornerstone of my social life. In my 20s, I'd go out to bars and hang out with my friends and get rowdy and go to parties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, try and pick up chicks or whatever. And that just doesn't make a happy wife. So I've stopped doing that. Like that's just not a thing that really happens. And, along with, myself growing up and being in my mid 30s, most of my friends are also in their mid 30s, and either, it seems like there's a split just about even between the ones who are raising families or traveling the world.
Yeah,
And I'm definitely falling squarely into the raising family side of things, and just generally being kind of career focused for the past few years. So my time for socializing is pretty severely limited, and I would rather do something around socializing.
for
Like,
sure.
got no problem sitting in a room and hanging out with people, but I'd rather have a handful of cards while I'm doing that.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know, something to kind of just facilitate, and like there is no awkward silence when you're sitting around playing board games,
Right?
because you go silent because you're thinking. Like, there's never that like, what's going on with him? Well, he's strategizing.
He's
That's
in the
what's going on
tank.
with him. Like, he'll be back. He's just got to do his thing. Then he'll be right back to the conversation, you know?
Definitely. So, with that in mind, what are your least favorite things about hosting a game night, Russ?
Um, really, for me, the only thing that I struggle with is I want to make sure everyone's enjoying it, and whether that means it's a game that I have that people are new to, or if they're just off put, or I kind of wear that. But that's about it. My wife and kids might agree that it might be something else, like hanging out till 3 a.m, and we're not exactly quiet, but they're used to it after 2+ years of it. So,
Yeah.
but that'd probably be it for me. I mean, I do love, like Ken said, when we're done at like 3 a.m, I just gotta walk upstairs and go to bed.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what about you, Kenneth? What is one of your least favorite things, or what are a few of those, if
Uh,
there are any?
as far as least favorite things, there's kind of the flip side of it being my comfort zone, and I like my family. Well, that includes my 4-year-old niece who gets really annoying. I can deal with her just fine, but her wanting to come up and get hugs from every single person at the table and ask them, "Hey, what's this? Hey, what's that? What are you doing? What's this?" and grabbing shit off the table, that can be annoying. My dogs, like when you get there, they're both extremely excited to see whoever you are.
Yeah, they are.
And then once they mellow out, then they start farting. And
Oh,
it's some pretty powerful stuff.
I
And
thought that was Russ.
Oh, man.
Russ contributes, but
After a
like,
few years, I just know
like-
Drax will hang out at my feet, and it is, oh
Yeah,
man, it
and-
is ripe.
and I'm used to it, but like having someone over and they go, "Drax, jeez," I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, he's gassy. He's just always gassy." And I'm just used to the rancid dog farts from my like anxiety-ridden little Boston Terrier.
Right. But see, I think that goes to my point where it's like you want to make sure they're comfortable and okay. But like for me,
Yeah.
all of those things you mentioned, like I don't mind, but I'm used to it. I don't know if somebody else is gonna mind.
Yeah.
But even if I don't mind, I don't know if you're worried that.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
do,
there's a
if that
certain
makes sense, right?
there's a certain amount of that I guess self-consciousness that it's
Yeah.
like, okay, is the child messing up the evening for my guests? Is the dog farts messing up the evening for my guests? Is I default to some pretty like neutral music because my musical taste tends toward like very extreme, like hard, angry stuff that not everyone wants to sit and listen to someone screaming at them for like 4 or 5 hours while you're trying to think about the optimal play in whatever game. So, like I kind of adjust some things, and there's always a certain amount of like, is this working? Is this cool? Like look around. All right, people are
Right.
complaining about the dog farts. That's fine. That's normal. People are getting a little bit annoyed with the kid. That's fine. That's normal. She'll go to bed soon. Um, that sort of thing. The other thing is, and it's gotten better, is my wife likes to go to bed early, and I don't have like a game room yet. We play at my dining room,
Yeah.
which there's exactly one door between my dining room and my bedroom where my wife goes to sleep early. I mean, it's at the other end of the house, but there's no other physical barrier.
Right.
And my voice can carry, Russ's voice can carry, Jared's voice can carry. Alex is the loudest
Voices
person
carry.
around. Um, so like there's a few of us, and especially when you get into certain combinations, like Alex is loud no matter what. Alex is louder when Jared is there. Russ is louder when Jared is there. Like I we all kind of feed
Feed.
off of each
Yeah,
other. So it's like, me and Alex playing a two-player game is nowhere near as loud as me, Alex, and Russ playing a game,
for sure.
because Russ being a little bit louder is going to make Alex be a little bit louder, is going to make me be a little bit louder, and we all kind of it goes up from there. My wife has recently changed jobs, so she ends up playing a lot more with us, and that helps. And she's less like stressed out about getting a good night's sleep because of
Definitely.
her changed schedule and her more relaxed work environment. But that's there's just a few things that like I'm self conscious about, like ruining my wife's night, about you know my guests not being fully comfortable, that sort of
Definitely.
thing. Those are the downsides to hosting to me. It's not like you're hosting a bachelor party where you've got to clean up beer bottles the next day or anything
Yeah,
like that. I mean, if you're on a tight budget, hey, bring over your own sodas. Like that's
for sure.
it's a pretty low like cost of entry to host a board game night if you already own a table and board games.
That's true. Well, I think it's safe to say that rules of a new game get in my way quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like the inconsistency from one rule book to the next, and even more so the inconsistency of how those rules are lined out, and that can ultimately be the most frustrating thing for me about hosting a game night, especially because when I have people over, I want to play those new games. I've got plenty of stuff that I haven't played on the shelf of shame, but second on that list for me is just picking a game. It's damn near impossible for me to choose something to play right off the bat for a handful of reasons. Like I can remember the rules of one and I can play that with other people, but I've played it already. I want to try something new. I want to, scratch that itch, or who is going to like this pick or not. And like I mentioned, I don't have very many others with interest in gaming at home, so when I do get the sudden craving to play a game, I usually end up playing something solo if I'm not hosting a game night. But
Yeah, we have a interesting game night, right? We like new games. When people talk about
We
playing their same ones over again, like we play a lot of new
Yeah,
games.
we play a lot of new games. We throw down on the, like, there's some games that get played multiple times, but a lot of the time that's like, if we go to Russ's house, there's it's a lot more likely that we'll end up playing Chaos in the Old World or the others than if we're at my house, because, well, one, I don't have the others, and that's a big game that he's probably not going to bring with him.
yeah,
But I do have Chaos in the Old World, but that's like Russ's jam. If someone else in the group had Cthulhu Wars, or depending on how similar Glorantha turns out to be, are we going to play Glorantha as much as my Cthulhu Wars that I have all of this extra stuff for?
yeah.
That becomes a
Probably
thing.
not. Because we
And
can play with 11 on a map with that thing.
I know, right? And then there's also, like, with our group, like I got two of the nice like boardgametables.com branded board game bags.
Yeah.
I show up, I don't care how casual it is, how big or small. I usually show up with like 15 games.
See, and
Yeah.
I
And
tend to,
and I absolutely, like, I always try to make it clear. Yes, I showed up with all of these. No, I do not expect that we're going to play them. I don't expect it. Like, I'm just
Prepared.
bringing more options. And at times I know that doesn't help, because we all end up doing the. So what do you feel like playing?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. What do you feel like? Oh, I don't know, man. What do you want to
see,
do?
for me, when I host, I tend to want to play what's in your guys' bags because I had the opportunity to have it at my house. I don't want to be the bully of games. And I know that's something I've been conscious of the last few months because, like, I don't like terraforming Mars. That's not a secret.
Yeah.
But if we don't play it on game nights, you guys don't get it played as often, and I don't think that's fair. Like, I'll play it. I try to put on a happy face, but like I'm down to play it.
Yeah.
I'm also like, I almost feel like I'm the opposite of that, which ultimately I feel like gets a lot of my games played. If when I show up with games, you go, "Hey, we should play one of his games." Because when I'm at my house, I go, "Hey, we should play one of my games." Like, it's when I'm at my house is when I'm like, "All right, this one's been on the shelf that I've been looking at for a while, and it's right here. Let's grab it. Let's do it."
Yeah.
I tend to be more um, ready to lean towards my own stuff. We're all very much open for whatever, and we all like games.
Yeah.
We almost need to like
Schedule a play?
Well, like schedule the play or like
We did that for a while. We were really good at it, and then
we were
I
really good
lost
at it for like
track of it.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
It really did not. It was a great idea that did not last long at all. But there's ways to do it. I've actually thought about getting there's a chip theory game called like Game to Pick a Game. I've thought about getting that, which is supposed to be like a quick 10-minute game, and then the winner chooses what the next actual game you're going to play.
See, and we also need to. What we were doing at that time, Tyler, is somebody chooses an old game and then somebody chooses a new game, right?
Yeah,
so things would get replayed more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how we got to do the like, all right, Russ wants to get Glorantha to the table. We're going to do that this weekend. And also, I'm itching to play Terraforming Mars again, and we're going to do that. And that way, one, we're getting different games and we're getting older and newer, and we're also getting to pepper in the occasional game that, Russ doesn't really love Terraforming Mars. But when we plan this shit out a few days in advance or a week in advance or whatever, he knows that it's coming, so he can be like, all right, mentally preparing. I'm going to be playing Terraforming Mars. I'm not going to be grumpy. I'm going to go for a strategy. I'm going to see if there's something that I've been missing, whatever. And it makes the whole thing run smoother. We should really get back to some version of that.
See, and I need to get better. I need to get, I've been thinking about it this week. I need to buy a portable table. I had one, but my child ruined it because I think we're getting to where it's very beneficial to split up, because we get those 4-player games like Abomination, Glorantha that don't get played when we have 9 people show up.
Yeah, it felt really good the other night being like, okay, so I really, really wanted to play Abomination. Tyler really, really wanted to play Abomination. And if it came down to it, there really was a version of the night basically going, all right, everyone else, you can do whatever. Me and Tyler are going to play Abomination. And I know my wife, she would have probably joined with us, and it ended up being that you were pretty much on with that, and you said, hey, why don't you the other 3 guys were there, hey, do you guys want to play something? And they decided on route. I think
what happens is when we have the 8 or 9, which I love having that many people, it really limits our game, right? And then what happened like this time is people trickle in. It was like, oh, we have 6 players. I should have bullied because I really wanted to play Richard the Lionheart when we had 6, but then we got to 7, and it's like, my problem is, and it's not this way so much now that we've done it a few times, is I feel bad splitting up because I feel like people might get their feelings hurt, but I think it's quite the opposite. Like, we're all here, we can split up. I'm going to get a better second table, right? And then we could do 3 games, right? We could do multiple, and we can all hang out, we can switch up, and then it doesn't really limit on player counts. It's not like, we have 4, but
and that's something that works out better at both of your guys' house. Tyler, in your game room, you have 2 tables sitting there, and that's
the plan.
That's awesome.
That availability.
And with Russ, your space for gaming, like your game room, is just it's bigger, and the other guys ended up crowding around a coffee table. But all you really need is a coffee table. My house, my gaming space is my dining room, and there's not room for another table in there. Eventually, I'll have a game room, and I intend to have 2 tables set up for those nights, because it is, if nothing else, it's good to have the option. It's all right. Do we want to? We've got 8 people. Do we want to play Cthulhu Wars, Sidereal Confluence,
Cthulhu Wars, 8 people,
or do we want to split up and play a couple of games? Like there is that extremely limited number, and then you factor in like Sidereal Confluence is portable enough, But what other 8 and 9 player games do we have? Cthulhu Wars is the biggest one. There's like the next one that comes to my mind, and I'm not taking that to your house. I
No.
don't care how many people are there.
No.
You know, I have enough stuff for Zombicide Black Plague between the expansions and all of that I can actually play like 10 or 12 people on that. And that's fun, but that's another one that it's like, that's kind of a bear to take, you know?
Those are kind of that, like the others. Like I don't.
Yeah, those
really
are
love
like
taking
let's
I've
play it at
taken
my house
for
games.
a convention. Taken for a convention, but I don't love transporting it. I like playing it at a convention, showing off the paint, but that's a different issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I plan on bringing Anachrony and Tricarion to TimCon this
Awesome.
weekend. So
See, you have some games that I've really wanted to get to the table. And I know Ken always, I go over there and he has all these unwrapped games or, still in shrink. And I'm like, ooh, we need to play that and we need to play that. And there's just not enough time. And
No, my work schedule mellowing out a bit I've already noticed quite a bit of help in that area. It's like, all right, cool. And I'm getting through some of these games that I've wanted to play that I've had, and
making progress.
it's really nice.
And that's the problem when we're learning games every Friday. We need to get back to not only learning games, is that a night where you can play. I really enjoy the nights where we play all repeat games and you get like 4 or 5 games in, as opposed to nights where you're learning and you get 1 in. And it might not be that long of a game, but you add that with learning and it just really expands it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got over on Friday night. I got over to your house around like 7 or so, because we all kind of met at the mall and had dinner. And then we were at your house, like ready to start gaming around like 7. We played Court of the Dead for a week and a half, and then we played a quick game of Ethnos that was a half hour or so.
Yeah.
I mean, and then we played Abomination. So we played 2 new games, and I ended up leaving your house at like 4 a.m. And Court of the Dead took a long time. A big part of that is learning the game and learning the 900 steps per turn, and then learning Abomination, even though it's it's just another worker placement game, and there's would it be set collection? I mean, it's almost like a set collection resource management element. Like they're not setting the world on fire with new stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like there's radically new mechanics, but there's still enough going on that it was a slow playthrough. It took a while. And I also totally flubbed 1 or 2 pretty big rules that I think made the game take longer. And, I think subsequent plays could go a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But that thing of having 2 games, and, like you've said, you think that we could play Court of the Dead in an hour and a half or so.
Yeah.
We probably could, but not on the first time.
Oh, no.
And then we could probably play Abomination. I want to say that the box says an hour or 2 on that, like 60 to 120 minutes. So call that 90 also. I think that both of those are probably reasonable times.
Yeah.
But playing them both on the first night, that turns in 10 hours on 2 games,
Yeah, see,
on
we
2
need
hour-and-a-half games.
Yeah.
Like that gets rough.
New games back to back tends to be our habit. Like I was looking at my BGG stats, I played 102 new games this year. Right? That means that when I bring out games that aren't named Wingspan, I've got to refresh myself on rules, right? So it's just this. Game nights need to have a flow, and especially when you're hosting. If you're pulling out just new games and learning from a rule book, people tend to mentally check out, right? They start playing on their phone.
Well, you get the different learning styles, like I personally.
That's really hard to teach.
I personally do a lot better, either with the let's jump into it and walk through the first turn or 2, like either going from the book, or I can do a video. Even if I'm the one reading the rule book, I take it in more effectively if I'm walking through the game rather than me just reading it.
Yeah.
Ashley I could put her in front of a loop of videos for hours and hours, and it just wouldn't stick.
Yeah.
You know, she has to learn by doing. I cannot just read it to her. You know, where Jared, it doesn't matter how well you know the game. He's like, let me see that rule book. I need to look through that. Like, I need to know how this game plays. With Ethnos, he wasn't even playing, and he had to have the rule book in his hand. It was like, dude, give me that.
Yeah.
I need to know what's going on. You're not even playing. Settle down. You know, but different people learn in different ways,
Right.
so that when you are pulling out the game for that first time, and you've got, you know, it's like, hey, you guys go ahead and punch this while I get a page and a half ahead of everyone else on the rule book. It makes it a lot harder to learn. And I've decided, like, I feel like I am terrible at teaching games, and I know that I often miss rules. And the only way that I don't miss rules is if I do it the most boring way possible, and that's I'm reading the book out loud to you, and ideally we're just walking through that turn. That is what works best for me. But I know that it feels boring. So I've decided I need to make a better effort to have a better idea, at least to where I'm refreshing when I sit down with everyone, or I'm skimming and I've got the broad strokes. You know, like I need to know a game a little better.
Yeah. See,
before
I
it hits
need
the
to.
table.
I need to do a turn. Like, someone can describe a game to me, and a lot of times it'll be like, feels like they're speaking gibberish, and then we play a turn. It's like,
Sidereal
Court of the
Confluence
Dead. It was not even that complicated.
No,
We just
I
had to
feel
start
like
playing.
I feel like Sidereal Confluence is the ultimate.
Right.
Nope. All these words you're saying, none of them are working for me. And then we
Yeah.
play it, and it was like, yes, this is amazing.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'm similar with you, Russ, in that it doesn't really quite click. I mean, it makes sense to some degree, but once I get that first turn in, that's when the wheels actually
Yeah.
gain traction, and I feel like I'm moving forward and
I like to
understanding
have a purpose.
that game. Yeah.
Right. Like, I like to. I'm one of those, and we'll have a discussion, I think, at some point about rule books and learning styles. And for me, it's like, I want to know what is my end goal, and then kind of how, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Because if I don't know, like, score total or what you get at the end for points, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? That doesn't make sense. And that's
Right.
why the walkthrough games that some games come with, like Root, like, I don't like that, because I don't understand why I'm doing stuff. It tells me what to do, cool, but I don't understand why would I do that? Why would
Yeah.
I move that there? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So, what about solo gaming? What are some of the things that stand out as far as solo gaming? Because for me, solo gaming's a great outlet because, like I've mentioned, there's nobody else in my house that really wants to play a game for the most part. And, you know, now I do realize that I have an unhealthy craving for board games to some degree,
That's so
but
true.
there are enough other people.
It's only unhealthy if you're eating them.
Speaking of, my uncle actually ate a piece while we were playing. He was eating a bunch of pretzels and stuff and grabbed a Mars Attacks game piece and bit into it and knew instantly, one, it tasted awful, and two, it did not bite well. But
was it plastic or was it cardboard?
it was a cardboard chit.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's fiber.
That's
That's
awesome.
fine.
Yeah.
A little bit of fiber.
Yeah. He spit it right out, and I still got his teeth marks in the game. But no, so there's enough other people that are just, you know, in a similar boat that luckily design games and have developed and designed ways for me to enjoy gaming when nobody else wants to or nobody else is around. And I also love having a solo mode for the learning purposes, like we were talking about. I've tried to teach and play games before, and let's just say that anxiety, it can get to me, and it leaves me stressed out more than happy most of the time. And when it comes to gaming, it should always be about fun. And
Yeah.
I'm more high-strung than I'd oftentimes like to admit. And when it comes to explaining things that I barely understand on my own to other people, it's going to add to that stress quite a bit. So with solo gaming options, I can learn the game in a much more low-stress environment and then share that knowledge later on with the group. It definitely helps my confidence in teaching that group later on. and the experience usually lands quite a bit better as a whole. But there are times where, I'm feeling a little bit antisocial, and solo gaming might be the way that I just want to go and mentally reset in a way, which is, another reason that I like solo gaming quite a bit.
Yeah. So solo gaming for me is one of two things. I've been thinking about this as I use it for learning a game, learning how to play it, or two, specifically I like quest adventure games solo. Gloom of Killforth, Hero Realms, those kind of games.
Yeah.
So that's kind of for me. And then the thing that kind of detracts me is heavy setup, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like Gloom of Killforth is not too easy. I mean, it's just separating stacks of cards and stuff, so it's not too difficult. But there's some games that I have that have solo modes that are a little too much setup that kind of like I'm okay. I don't need to do that.
Right.
Yeah, I knew that we were going to be talking about some solo games. So today, when I got off work, I was like, I'll throw down on a game of Unbroken. And I literally spent more time setting it up than I did playing it. Like, I beat the first monster, and the second monster, I looked at it and I was like, well, I'm going to try this. I need something to happen here. I drew an encounter or a couple of encounter cards, didn't get the resources I need. It was over. It was over. And I was like, well, if I was on a Saturday afternoon, if I was like at the house by myself or just wanted to kind of be off in a room doing a thing, I would have been like, soft reset. We're just going to start the game over. But where I was like, all right, in 20 minutes, I'm going to be leaving to come over here and record. Well, it's going to take me 10 of those to put the game back away. So, all right, I've taken more time setting it up, played the game, and then I've taken more time putting it away again. I'm like 5-1 in setup and takedown versus playtime in today's game of Unbroken. And I was like, yeah, I should, the next time I play Unbroken, I should really be ready to play a few games of it and just keep it set up,
Yeah. Well, that leads me to my next questions. What are some of the drawbacks to solo gaming? And obviously, I think all three of us can agree that setup and takedown is one of the biggest drawbacks.
What is the reaction that you guys get when you tell someone you're going to play a board game solo?
I have never really had anybody ask, or it's just
what
never
about your
come
family?
up. They seem relieved because I'm not asking them to play. Sadly.
I tend to be I need alone time. There was a time when me and my wife first were together that I'd spend my day at work with a crew. I was around 2 or 3 guys all day at work, and then I would come home and there was the wife and the kids, and about once a month I'd be like, here's $100, get out of my house, go. Everyone has to leave, take the kids, go do something with your sister. I don't care what you do, go away for a couple of hours. I love you, please don't ruin that, go away. I'll fund it, go have fun, do whatever you want, just I need some time to myself. Now my position at work, I spend most of my day alone. So I don't crave that. So I'm I'm more balanced out. So that the first few times that I played solo games, my wife kind of went, "What you doing?" And I was like, "I'm gonna play this." Well, what? And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna play it by myself." She was like, "Okay," like that, because I like being alone so much.
Right.
It just didn't seem like a weird thing. Now, when I've talked to guys at work who are a little bit into games or whatever, and they're kind of, I threw down on a solo game of this. They go, what? And
that's kind of the reaction I get.
They also it's when I play a board game solo, there's a few choices that I'm making. I'm choosing to obviously there's the base of I'm choosing to play a board game by myself, and for me, board games tend to be my social life. So I'm choosing to do my favorite social activity in a totally non-social setting. Now, I'm also most of the time choosing to walk away from the people in my house because my wife, my sister-in-law, the kids, the niece, someone's there usually. So I'm also making the choice to walk away from them and do something without them that they could just as easily be included in. I'm also choosing to not turn on a PlayStation and let the game manage all the upkeep for me.
Yeah.
Like, and that's always been the biggest the head turned confused puppy look from more casual gamers is you're playing a board game by yourself, but you own a PlayStation and you play it. Like you don't just own it for Netflix. Like you have a lot of PlayStation games. You are a video gamer as well.
Yeah.
Why would you pull out stacks of cards and dice and set up a board and move things around and sit in a room by yourself when you could just turn on your PlayStation? So there's a few choices that I make. I honestly, there was a little bit there that I was playing solo games more, and it definitely, I've noticed that it coincided with how much other alone time I got. I could easily say, hey, why don't you watch whatever it is that you want to watch on the TV, and I'm going to go over here and play a game by myself. And I don't care if it's weird to you. I just sort of need this alone time. Now that I get more alone time at work, it's like, feel like playing a game? No? All right. Either, a month ago it was, all right, I feel like playing a board game, and damn it, I'm going to play a board game and, pull out something solo. In the last month, it's like, I feel like playing a game, but no one's here, and so I'm going to play Borderlands. I'm going to fire up the PlayStation.
Yeah.
And there's that ebb and flow,
Yeah. I have friends that it was very weird for them to hear that I've been playing something solo because they're new to the hobby. It's a monthly group that I have with some neighbors, and they are really starting to enjoy some things. But when I mention I played solo, they're like, "What? That's weird." Or my daughter has the same reaction. She's like, "Oh, I feel bad," and it's like, "No, I can't enjoy it."
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't play video games, and when you play a video game, you play alone. It's just the upkeep's different. Is about it. You've played solitaire.
Yeah, if it wasn't for video games, I'm sure I would play solo games a lot more. And also, like, the other thing is, with the nature of my gaming space, if I had a game room that either I could lock everyone out of, or that I could trust that no one was going to go in there and mess with it, I've got a feral 4-year-old just running around my house. Like, that child gets into everything. So, the best place that I could, my gaming space is my dining room. So if we want to eat, we got to take it out of the way. If I were to set up where eventually will be my gaming space, which is currently basically a playroom for the 4-year-old, the kid's going to be messing with anything that I leave set up. If I could leave it set up and just have a game, I would probably be like 60 scenarios into Gloomhaven. But setting it up as a bear and getting a consistent group to just play that is inconvenient, and it would work just fine solo.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to set it up every single time that I play it.
Definitely. Because that would be more of the time that you'd be spending on setup and takedown than or even equal amounts of time with Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't seem like it could be as beneficial. Well, for me, not being able to share the experience with others is a bit of a drawback. So when you make a good play, or when you realize this thing that when you unlock that, oh shit moment, that's kind of hard to I'm not going to call Kenneth and be like, "Kenneth, dude, I just figured out this thing in Anachrony."
You totally can.
I mean, I could. and you probably would probably share the excitement more than anybody else in my house. So
does Anachrony play solo?
One of the best solo games I've ever played. It's
Wow.
got an entire solo board, and you roll a dice, and it has these actions that sit and revolve through the board, and so you're never getting the same thing. And I don't know how the hell it is, but it always puts its player on the thing that you need right then. So it's like a killer worker placement solo, which I never thought would be possible. I kind of tried to do that with learning Champions of Midgard. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do, well, this seems kind of counterintuitive because I'm going to do both things. So I know what I'm going to plan on doing. But no, the way that they lined that up, it was really, really well done. But, I also have a tendency to lose interest in things almost twice as fast as I become obsessed about them in the first place. And a lot of that has to do with gaming. I haven't lost that interest. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the community and the group of gamers that we've been able to cultivate. And you guys have, let me in to this side of things after we knew each other through Dice Masters. And the solo gaming community consists of a lot of other guys like me, guys with families that just aren't as interested in gaming at all. And so solo gaming caters to those of us forced into a more solo gaming experience more than I think other more social gamers might realize. So, but all things being said, I'd prefer to play a game with a group 9.9 times out of 10.
The social aspect, like a game night we've talked about, is definitely the one, other than setup, the one downside.
Yeah, and I would even say that for me it depends. Like, Too Many Bones is fun. Too Many Bones is there's enough going on. There's a part of me I'd genuinely kind of rather just play it by myself. But it's a cool enough game that like I want to play it with other people.
Yeah.
And I would like to play it enough to feel more comfortable with the rules. And that's part of it is like the rules are there's just a lot going on. There's a lot to remember. There's a lot of looking through the book and checking your reference sheet and looking for the different. And I feel less awkward about that if I'm just by myself. It's like, all right, whatever. I can go through here and
nobody's waiting on you.
Yeah, and it's just like I as of right now, I would genuinely rather play that game solo, while at the same time wanting to show everyone this amazing game. Like, check out all these awesome dice and these playmats and all of these like these rad poker chips and stuff, and let's just put it away and I'll play it by myself tomorrow. Which is weird, but and Gloomhaven is a game that if I had everything my way, it would just be set up and ready to go, and I would probably play it by myself, unless it'd be, hey, if you want to start showing up on Wednesday nights, we can play Gloomhaven. If you don't want to, I'm playing Gloomhaven on Wednesday nights. That's what's gonna happen, with or without you, and that's. If that ended up being solo, I'd be fine with it. But, playing something like, I haven't played Anachrony, but I know that it's a worker placement game. I feel like I would rather play that with someone else. I know that Feast for Odin has a solo option. I have yet to want to explore that, even though I definitely want to explore more Feast for Odin.
Yeah.
But like, there's, I think of something like Cthulhu Wars or Kemet, because I love the like high conflict games. That's not really a thing that you can do with a solo game like that.
Well, I've narrowed down my solo games, like my interest, other than learning. Like Tapestry as a solo, I don't really have an interest in playing that solo. Wingspan, maybe, but I could play that so much with my wife that I don't even have to play solo because I'll just ask her if she wants to play. But Gloom of Killforth, Hero Realms, like those are adventure games that like I enjoy that adventure by myself. The game provides, for lack of a better term, like a DM that like I can go through and I can do all this adventure and not worry about someone else's turn or anything else.
With that, like you can just sort of focus on what you like about it, and you're essentially it's not just that you're playing a game. There's a game and a story,
right?
And you can really let the story come through if you're playing by yourself. I mean, you could even sit back and go, "Whew, that play," and then I don't know, like roll it around in your head and create more story that's
Right.
maybe between the lines. Whereas, if you do something and you're like, whew, that move, and someone's like, and now mine, like you don't get to enjoy that moment.
Yeah.
The pace is totally different
Yeah.
when you
And the
add
good thing with
other
those
people.
ones is I don't even have to worry about a bot as an example. Like I don't have to worry about
Yeah, some games the solo option there's just a shit ton of upkeep.
right.
Which depending on the game, totally worth it, and other games totally inconvenient.
Like Life Form that I just got has a whole expansion for solo, and I'm like, that just seems like a lot. Just because it's a one versus many and alien game, like I don't know if I need to adventure into the solo portion of that just because I don't want to worry about upkeep and what happens.
Right.
And the Gloom of Killforth right now is pretty simple setup, stack of cards, set up the world and go. Like not too hard to think about.
Yeah.
I think anything done by David Turksey is worth looking at solo wise. He's got a knack for that. I mean, he's a great designer as it is, but I think that he's really tuned into what playing a game, what you're trying to get out of that game is going to be, and he provides that through the solo mechanisms that he's, incorporating in these things.
Does
Like-
Scythe have solo?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they
Of
have the
course it
autonomous.
does.
Yeah, I haven't done that, aside from playing the digital version, which is a hell of a lot easier for setup and takedown,
Right.
right? But it doesn't have all the things that my expansions do. There's no Rise of Fenris. There's,
Right.
I have to buy the expansion factions, and it's missing a few things. And I'd love to have the modular board too, which is something that I haven't even tried yet that I've got. But when it comes to a solo game, I want the story more than anything. And surprisingly, Anachrony is one of the best solo games that I've ever played because of the way that the game itself tells a story as you're playing it, and it plays like you're playing against somebody. It doesn't feel like a bot so much as it does an intelligence, which is nice. Which is it's not just like I'm moving this here and I'm moving that there. I'm rolling a dice, and it's this, I don't know, like I said, it's an intelligence somewhat that I'm playing against, which makes it that much more fun. But the games that stand out to me are the easiest to set up as far as a solo game goes. So pretty much anything that's Tiny Epic, those solo modes seem to do pretty well. For everything that I've played through, the solo modes, they work fairly well. Like Tiny Epic Zombies, like we talked about last week, that one is one of my favorites to play solo. We've talked about Elder Sign. That's great
That's
to
a
play
good
solo.
game.
So, there's a couple of good ones out there, but, bottom line, I'd love to share all these experiences with somebody. And as weird as it sounds, I think it'd be kind of cool for, like, a game like Unbroken or, some of these other solo games or games that have a really well put together solo mode to, learn or teach others in a group setting, but then that kind of defeats the purpose of a solo game. So, but yeah.
I am so excited for Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. I've actually there's this weekend when you guys are at TimpCon and I am doing other stuff in my free time, I'm thinking that I'm gonna finally get Spirit Island to the table to go for a solo playthrough between yesterday being Columbus Day and us talking about solo games and the fact that I haven't played that, and it just seems like a really interesting game. It gets rave reviews, and there's currently an Indiegogo campaign for the a digital implementation. I want to play it. I want to destroy some colonizers. Do my thing.
Absolutely, and that
But-
one has a really great reputation for solo
That's
as well.
that's what I've heard. I mean, that kind of works with any like co-op game. So
Yeah.
like, I've played a lot of probably the game I've played the most solo is Eon's End, which is a deck builder, but it feels more tactical of a deck builder. Like there's nothing really. The only random thing about it is what the bad guy does and the turn order. Everything else is very like deterministic.
Yeah.
So I've played that true solo. I've got like little card holders so I could play more easily multi-handed, so I can combo off each other, and play two different characters.
Right.
And any co-op game you can do that, and um I've played too many bones solo and got beat down, and I was like, the next time I play too many bones by myself, I should be running two characters,
Right.
and with that, just that works with any co-op game. You can play it by yourself. It's just whether the upkeep of running, if you need to run more than one character for the difficulty, then the upkeep of running more than one character can be kind of a turnoff.
It can be.
There's some interesting games out there with solos that you wouldn't think of. Like, I didn't realize Anachrony did. Probably one of my most interesting games that has solo that I enjoyed the play of. I don't think you enjoyed your play of, was Root, but I played Birds versus Cats, which is pretty simple, and that felt like a solo territory control game. So it felt a little different than Root, but it was very much felt.
Yeah, when I played Root solo, I was the lizards against the cats, and there's a possibility that I was doing something wrong, because since then, when I've played and I've seen the lizards played, I don't think I was playing them the way that I've seen other people do it. So I'm not sure if maybe I was making a mistake there. But
There's a little bit of rules in there. You could probably miss a handful of them every play.
Right. But with the lizards specifically, they're working off of a discard pile. And the last time that we played, I remember specifically watching like the lizards guy essentially controlling his own discard pile. And I was like, do you get your own discard pile? Or are you supposed to be working off of everyone's discard pile? Because those are two totally different games. And when you're playing the way that the mechanical cat works in Root, it has a line of cards, and you basically turn them around so that you can see them, and then it does some actions. Well, if that's the only thing that's discarding, then is the thing going to flip? And so essentially the cat stays one step ahead of you because it's flipping, and you go, okay, it's a fox card. The cat does stuff in the fox territories. And I have to do things in the fox territories that the cat just bolstered. Wonderful.
Yeah.
What are we doing next? Mice? Okay, cool. They bolstered the mice territories, and now I have to do something in the mice territories because that's what's in the discard pile.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I was playing it wrong, if I'm supposed to control my own discard pile as the lizards. I haven't really looked into it since then, but the way that I read it when I played it that first time solo, that wasn't a game. That was not a game. That was
seeing the cats versus
that was awful.
The birds is a really good solo. I don't know about other races, and it's not super deep as much as Root is with everybody playing, right? Because it's kind of like they're doing one thing and one's doing the other.
Depth, the real. There's the individuality of all the different factions, which adds a default amount of depth. But the real depth in Root to me is the meta game, the players. How, because you can play any given faction a little bit differently. You can go for different strategies and stuff like that. So like it's a lot of the depth in Root is reading the table.
Yeah. So playing that solo was interesting, and I mainly did it because I was still trying to learn it. Even I think I was 2 or 3 plays into it, but I was still like, I got to figure this out. And I did enjoy it, and it wasn't that hard to set up. So I was really pleased with it, and I didn't think that a game like that, and I guess it's a territory control based on BGG, so I didn't know you could really do that. So it was
we've talked
pleasant
about it before, and you have said that you are willing to cheat on a solo game, and that is weird to me. That's the weirdest
it
thing.
Depends on if I am playing it or learning it.
See, I'm okay with the idea of adjusting for a learning game, but if I'm playing the game, I am absolutely not going to cheat when I'm playing solo.
Yeah.
Right.
So like first game of Gloom of Killforth, I was getting wrecked. But I didn't want to end like as soon as I probably would have, so I kind of fudged a little.
Yeah, I can see that, but at the same time, like, for me, a lot of that depends on the depth of the game.
Right.
Like, I'd be way more willing to flub something on like Too Many Bones, where it's a complex game,
Yeah.
and like for the nuance that I may have missed, I'm gonna lean a little bit, Um, but now that I've played the game a few times, I wouldn't cheat.
Right.
If I was messing up on a rule, I'd do my best to undo that. But like my first game of playing Cthulhu, a deck building game, uh, I immediately got my ass handed to me. I played through another couple of rounds to kind of get the flow and get the jive of the game. But I could see, I was like, there's no way. I've lost the game.
Right.
It's very, and after another turn or
Yeah, I've
two,
had
it was
hero
even
roll.
more real. Like, it was very apparent. It went from being like, I don't know, to I know I cannot do anything there.
Yeah.
I'm screwed.
I've
It's
had
over.
Hero Realms games where it's like, I'm gonna start over.
Yeah, I mean
Like I'm done.
that's essentially how today's play of Unbroken went for me. I flipped over the second monster, and I went, well, I have like one chance. I can try to do this. Tried it, and I went, it's over. Putting it away.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
there's
lie,
nothing I can do.
I've let out a scream when my dice hate me on a solo game. It's like, are you kidding me? That's frustrating.
Yeah, it can be. So, with all this discussion about solo games, what's your favorite one, Russ?
Gloom of Kilforth.
What about you, Kenneth?
Uh,
If there is such a thing.
I feel like I almost have to default to Eon's End because I've played it so much solo. But I'm getting to a point where it depends on what I want to like. I mean, with gaming in general, it depends on what I want to do, and with solo games also. If I want, like Zombicide plays great solo.
Yeah.
If I want to take the time to set that up because that one's kind of a bear, I'll go for it, and I'll do it. If I don't feel like sorting through all of the cards that I have for Eon's End, but I feel like doing a deck builder, I might go for the Cthulhu deck builder that's a little more simple.
Yeah.
Or if I feel like I need to go on an adventure as little Gearlock elf guys, I'm obviously going with Too Many Bones. So, definitely the one that I've played the most is Eon's End. It's hard to say that anything else would be a favorite
Yeah.
over that, but I
makes
am
sense.
getting to where it's more about the flavor, the mood of the day.
That
What
makes
about
sense.
you, Tyler?
I'd still say Anachrony is the most rewarding experience overall because I actually feel like I'm not just, moving chits and moving this and that. I'm interacting with something intelligent. So Anachrony wins it for me.
I'm really excited to play that game.
Me too. It's all painted too.
What do you look for in a solo game? Like, is it do you just look for that story? Do you look for the puzzle? Do you look for the challenge? Because I mean, like a co-op game that's easy is a waste of time. Like, why are you even doing it? Right? You gotta have a challenge in a solo or in a co-op game. And a lot of the time for me, when I am playing a solo game, it's usually the other version of that game is a co-op game. So I'm essentially playing a co-op game, just I'm cooperating with myself.
Right.
So I always look for that challenge unless I'm specifically in the mood for an adventure and no one else wants to go on it with me. Do you look for that, like the puzzle or the challenge or a story? What do you guys look for?
For me, so far, from what I can tell, early on I just looked, does this have solo? Okay, let's try this.
You just wanted a game on the table.
Yeah,
and that's
early on,
fair
that's
too.
how
I mean,
it went.
that could totally
Yeah.
be the thing.
But lately, I want uniqueness. What is this solo experience going to be? Am I just going to be rolling his dice and rolling mine, or am I going to be, playing it two-handed with, the most co-ops and that? I'm looking for something left of the center. I want something different, and Anachrony does that very well. And that's why I think David Turczi's become my favorite designers, because not only is Anachrony a great game to get with other players to the table, but it's done so well for me in a solo experience.
Yeah, for me, it's more of a story. Like, I have a lot of games that can be played solo, that I enjoy. Tiny Epic Zombies, which I need to get to the table in the next few weeks before Halloween. But, like right now, like Gloom of Kilforth scratches that itch for me because it's a reasonably quick setup. I don't have to worry about a bot. Not that bots are bad, right? Not that the upkeep's bad, but just the fact that I can just kind of take this hero and go on an adventure. Like, I kind of enjoy that piece of it.
I'm kind of curious.
And it's hard.
I'm kind of curious to see if, 3 months from now, if your answer is still that you go for story, because
Right.
with us having an impending D&D campaign, you are going to be up to your ears in game story.
Well, and right now, I mean, I was thinking about that when we talk about like solo games right now. If I have time for solo stuff, like I am knee deep in just like D&D,
Like
reading,
studying.
studying, like fully enjoying it. It's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
That being said, though, playing that adventure game kind of also helps feed that.
You could
Sparks a little
like,
inspiration.
Yeah.
inspire it and stuff. Yeah, I'm just
Cool.
curious to see if that's still like your driving thing.
Can you play
for...
D&D alone?
Yeah. I mean, if you want. That genuinely sounds terrible to me, but there's no
That's
reason
an
you
upkeep
couldn't.
nightmare.
Yeah, like that's just upkeep the game. Like that is. Oh, here's a real big plot twist. Wow, I really got me there. No, that doesn't sound fun at
Yeah.
all. Like,
I mean,
at that point, like just play Skyrim. Like,
Yeah,
come on,
for
man.
sure.
Just throw on Skyrim.
Speaking about that with the D&D, having adventuring into this DM stuff, I have played an RPG a few times, and it was okay. I am so much more interested in the DM side. Like, I am fully like loving.
I don't know how many
this.
times I like years I have been telling you would be a great DM. Like years, man. I've known this for so long now.
And all
Yeah,
it took
hopefully I
was
don't
just
screw it
throwing
up.
books at him.
Dude, like I don't know what changed. Like all of a sudden he was like, yeah, so I've decided to play Magic that you've been telling me that I'd enjoy for years, and I'm really liking it, and I'm also going to try out being a DM. That
Well,
you've been
it was
telling me
more
for
of
years. It was like one, all of a sudden over the course of like a week, he was like, Kenneth's probably right about everything.
Well, no, the DM stuff, I've been thinking about this for months because I didn't want to be like, maybe I'll try it. It was more of, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure I wanted to do it.
For
So,
sure.
Yeah, really, as far as like a solo option for D&D goes, I would, if someone was like, hey, I want to play D&D, but I'm like by myself, I'd say just get on a computer and go for, there's a website called Roll20 that is an online implementation of just about any like pen and paper role-playing game. And you can use it to manage a lot of the stuff, but it plays like that. And you just hook up with a DM online, whether it's private group or there's like search for group options,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
yeah.
I've also heard Four Against Darkness is a pretty good solo RPG. I don't know how it works, but I've heard it's done wonderful things.
I've been interested in. Oh, when I first learned about it, I was always kind of like, man, who would want to be the DM and not play, and like have 100% more interest in being a DM. Like, just
Well, yeah, you're just playing a different way.
right.
Really, like I am we're just kind of at the start, and I really haven't dove into any myself yet, but I'm interested to see the impact that app-driven games have on the social or on the solo gaming landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially those games that like kind of build themselves as, the app acts as your DM. The app is your overlord.
Yeah.
Because with those, I mean, obviously that's not going to be a role playing game in the way of D&D being like, all right, you're in a bar, what do you do? You know, like they can't, an app can't have that
Yeah.
kind of freedom, but they can give you some choices, and they can, you know,
React to
I know
those
that Mansions of
decisions.
Madness, you know, as you add more
Yeah.
expansion content, so you've got more physical stuff to work with, the app goes, well, I've got some more options. I've got some different twists. I got some different paths for you. You know, and
Crime.
ultimately, you're using the same materials and probably hitting the same story
Yeah.
beats in a way, but it creates more options through the app, and that is awesome for solo gaming.
Yeah. Chronicles of Crime would be a great solo game. I mean, it plays the same solo or more people, but for me, that game is like social, right?
Yep.
Like discussing stuff. But if you are fully into just solving mysteries, that's a great one to play solo. So,
Right.
what about the games that have a 0 player count? Now that we have one of those,
Well, we don't.
No,
I don't
No.
think.
I will
we-
not. No, no. That's no. Nope. Get at it. No, there's no way. Like, I mean, what is that? Set up and take down the game?
so it's
like,
Yeah.
it's strictly just upkeep, right? That
Yeah.
we've talked
Yeah,
about is kind of
that's-
the downside.
It doesn't sound fun.
I don't even understand the idea of like,
Aren't you still playing it? Like, right? Aren't you even at a 0 player count upkeep game? Aren't you still playing it?
You'd have to be
I mean,
in order for it to.
So
Yeah. I don't,
like, if there's a win, yes, you're still playing. If there's any, even if it's as simple as like you have to flip over the card and then it does whatever, and at a certain point you either win or lose. Yeah, you're playing a game. Yeah. The only way that I genuinely think that it could be a true 0 player game and it's just upkeep is if there's no winner and you can just keep going.
But even if
and
it's
like,
just a story where you're flipping cards and things go, so it's not
Well,
technically
I mean,
playing
I-
win or loser,
I guess
but isn't
you
that
could
just
do
still
that,
you're
but
playing? Like you're playing with action figures, basically.
You're reading. You're reading with action figures, which, like, I can
It's just
get
weird to
behind
me.
that
The
not
whole
being a
concept
game.
is a little
Like-
strange.
Like, I personally think that Exploding Kittens isn't a game.
Well-
I don't think there's enough there to make it a game, but that
Maybe,
doesn't mean that it's a 0 player. You're still certainly playing, you know, and you're playing with other people.
ma-
But
maybe we shouldn't
a
say
story,
that
I
too
guess.
loud because it might be a way for me to get my son into gaming if he doesn't think that he's playing a game. And it also might help with his reading comprehension, which is two things that we need to get going here.
You better watch out. He might read between the lines and stop trusting you.
Oh, shit.
My son goes through phases, right? I have some games that I'll pick up to play specifically with him, and some like he'll be into it for like a month and then he won't be. And then part of it, I think I get grumpy with him sometimes when I'm teaching him a game because he's like spacing off and it's like, dude, make a decision. And I'm trying to, so I'll own part of that.
I can
Yeah,
appreciate that.
with
I've
the
probably-
kids, I feel like 9 times out of 10, if they go, "Hey, I want to play a game," I'm like, "All right, let's play a game," and they go, "Let's play the biggest, most like complex, the let's play Cthulhu Wars. It's going to take like a good minute to set up, and you know, I need to be going to bed in about 14 minutes." It's like, well, we're not going to do that. And then they're like, well, fine, we just don't get to play games, you know. And then it's like they have this attitude of like, he doesn't even want to play games anymore, you know. He's got all these games and he doesn't want to play. And it's like, well, like, choose that 6 hours ago when you were playing PlayStation in your room by yourself. Like, come out and say, hey, can we play Cthulhu Wars? And I'll go, you're damn right we can play Cthulhu Wars. We can get 2-3 plays in at this hour.
Yeah.
You know, don't hit me with that right when we're about to go to bed.
They've got more than we think they've got more figured out, I guess. At least they think that they've got more figured out than we know that they do when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
My
it
kids
varies.
try to they try to pull things like that too. It's bedtime. Well, it's Now I'm really interested in the stuff that you wanted me to be interested in 4 hours ago.
Tell me about all the board games, Dad. Please, for like a few hours, because literally anything is better than going to bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, I get off work and it's like, what I wouldn't get for it to just be 10 o'clock right now, so I could go to sleep.
No shit. Well, thanks again for listening. Please rate and review the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or whatever podcatcher you use. Everywhere definitely helps. You can also find us at thelategamepodcast.com, at The Late Game Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as thelategamepodcast@gmail.com. We're working out some more cameras still, so in the near future, I feel like we may have some video content. Who knows, with the conventions, it may be already in the works. So, thanks again for staying up with The Late Game.
We got to figure out what night we're going to be playing D&D 2.
Every night.
Really?
I mean, probably not, but